computer. There we go. All right. So thank you guys for coming to the second ReelwUrld Advisors meeting, advisory board meeting. And the last time we had one was, I believe, December of 2020. And we were just about to launch our equity crowdfunding campaign on Net Capital. And what I'd like to do is give a pretty much a recap of this year, especially going into our new equity crowdfunding campaign that'll start in a few weeks on October 29th on WeFunder, and what the trajectory is and what the path has been, because it's been a really unique and powerful year for what we're doing together and what we're doing with the community as a whole. So last we convened. We had our Net Capital launch, and they're a wonderful group, but we quickly realized that our core demographic needed a different platform. They would be attracted to a different platform. We kind of knew that going in, but it was really the point of sales that really clarified it for us. It was like the icing on the cake. It was like, hey, this is it's a wonderful platform. John Guenther, you just joined us. But again, Net Capital is a fantastic platform. But essentially, they had 4 steps to convert a sale for someone who wants to invest in the company. And especially overseas, people were having trouble with that as well. So we had some issues there, and hopefully they worked those issues out on their side. But in addition to the tone of the platform, not necessarily being for our target fandom demographic, folks that may not necessarily be professional investors or professional investors, that they could still feel like it's not threatening to invest. And WeFunder very much always felt like the platform that made it easy and fun for anybody to invest in. And fortunately, John, who just joined the call, made a wonderful introduction to WeFunder, because John has worked with Legion M, which is pretty much the equity crowdfunding industry's darling. And they worked with WeFunder up until maybe 2 weeks ago. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We actually have questions for John on that. But WeFunder was just wonderful at receiving us. And we've been talking to them all year. And one of the criteria to get on WeFunder was to launch with a lead investor. And that is, hopefully, if we can get Ryan on the phone, he is already committed to bringing $50K in as our lead investor on WeFunder. So we are pretty much ready to go for launch for WeFunder in 2 weeks. But continuing with this recap, and we'll get to that in a little more detail. We put Justice for Hire, our first show that we're doing with the ReelwUrld processes. We put it on TikTok after avoiding TikTok for years, because we know that community is very much into actually making stuff versus, let's say, Instagram, YouTube, etc., where you get a lot more passive audience members. So we put it on TikTok after holding back for a while, and overnight we went viral and went from like 9 followers to 13,000, ended up with 77,000, got 7.5 million plus views. And but the most important part of that, not necessarily the views for our first episode, but the comments and shares. Over 10,000, more than 500,000 likes, but more than 10,000 comments and shares. And that's really when you and Autumn can speak to this with her expertise in social media, but that's like the real like yardstick is the comments and the shares. And these comments were from an international audience, and they are showcasing that this international group people that we are essentially building our platform for are ready for what we have to offer, the experience that we have dreamed of offering for so long, which is community, creativity, cinematic. And these comments we collected into a video, our 7.5 million views video, which you can see on any of our YouTube channels, just celebrating that achievement, and a bunch of comments are on there. You can slow this. I recommend slowing down the video and playing it back when the comments come up, and you can read each one. And people, they want to join, people have been joining, and they want to create as their own characters in their favorite stories. And because they have these, production studios in their pockets, as Apple has been marketing to us in the last month and a half more intensely. So those 7.5 million views we've been sharing our journey all along via email updates and social media, and people started reaching out to us. A buddy from IW Group, who I might have mentioned on our last call, Telly Wong, saw the virality of what we're doing and said, "Hey, look, this is phenomenal. I really feel like ReelwUrld is the next TikTok." And for him, he already went through the journey of trying to tell all of the advertisers, "Hey, TikTok is where you need to be," and they didn't get it until 2020. So he's learned his lesson from that. He's like, "Look, I really think that ReelwUrld is the next TikTok. So why don't we do a partnership?" And we started with Wash the Hate, which was a campaign he was doing to stop Asian hate. And we started, we rushed our Andra over here, put the nose to the grindstone and with some support from Tommy, wonderful support from Tommy, our tech advisor. And we launched our JFH app without being full MVP yet. It wasn't fully complete, but we had something that we could just put on the market to take advantage of the virality and to work with Telly Wong for Wash the Hate. So Wash the Hate worked out wonderfully. The best piece of content that came from there, Warner Media's Urban Action Showcase, featured on their virtual expo and interviewed the creators behind it. And just really wonderful stuff to see our community not only create content, because we're working with them to tell stories, but to also see them honored and recognized by the industry. And as Demetrius Angelo at Warner Media put it, ReelwUrld is now the gold standard of audience engagement. And I love that. It's an amazing quote. We're going to use that quote. But essentially, to be able to give the audience a tool to, not just tool, but permission. This kind of go right before we started recording, Chip and I were talking about like essentially confidence. By having all of you guys as advisors, it actually feeds confidence into us that transfers to our audience as they are given permission to create content. And that confidence goes into the content, and it raises the quality of the content and comes right back to us. And that just keeps on lifting the ocean line. So, everybody being a part of this actually matters. And then when the creators, essentially our audience, our target audience, gets honored by the industry, which I would consider everyone on this call a part of the industry, that's a huge deal, because media previously has drawn a line between audience and industry. So what we're really doing is just leveling the playing field. And that's, I think, one of the core messages you'll keep seeing and everything I'm going over here. But, we've repeated this process for July's San Diego Comic-Con, the superhero Kung Fu extravaganza with Rick Myers, at the recommendation of Warner Media's Demetrius Angelo, and got even more submissions and brought more creators on to be on a panel and talk to iconic folks in the martial arts cinema industry and have their work critiqued by them, and then get advice and become friends with people that they normally might consider not accessible. So we're making things accessible in a wonderful way, and that happened the same week that we achieved MVP of our app, and so that was the last week of July, and the app is fully live now at justiceforhire.app, the first ReelwUrld app, which is essentially framing a social network as a cinematic universe where all content comes together to tell a larger story, let's say like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we also had our non-provisional patent filing, which was dense and took 2 months. It took 2 months of time, very dense. So, but that's in process now as well. So we went from provisional last year in July to non-provisional this year in July. And so there's still a lot of stuff that needs to happen there, but that is a continuing process. That's part of the reason we're raising capital, because these, we are doing that filing on our own, and there's likely our patent is likely going to be split into multiple patents by the examiner. So like each one of those has its own patent fees. And I found out, I didn't know that the USPTO is financed completely by fees, not by the government itself. So they love charging fees, and that's why patents are expensive. I didn't know this. So of course, all the legal fees, etc. So next up, we just continue the pattern. We just finished our Justice for Hire competition yesterday and Justice for Hire, again, it's a franchise that ReelwUrld owns and controls. It's our proof of concept. It's our ability to showcase that what we're doing as an ecosystem works, rather than just offering tools. If we just offer tools, people will use it all different ways, and they're going to use it in all different ways. But by focusing on saying, here's one story, here's one world, and we're focusing on the genre of action, which is not necessarily just stunts and fighting, but action is essentially movement. The genre that focuses on movement through storytelling, moving the camera. And if you follow our ReelwUrld on Instagram, I made a post 2 days ago that is alluding to some of the technology that we'll be building after we're funded on this crowdfunding campaign, being able to sync audio with movement, sound effects, etc., all in app, all automatically, and allowing someone to choose their genre is first and foremost to be able to throw a genre filter on a video so that your video you shot gets auto edited like an action movie or a romance film or a comedy. You first have to build the tools that are specific to the genre. So fortunately, we started with action, and that's the lowest hanging fruit for me personally and for us. So it's going pretty well. We closed out our Justice for Hire competition last night with a community meetup, and that was wonderful. Everybody on that meetup was a creator for the first time. So it wasn't passive audience members, but literally everybody who showed up actually made something. And that's a huge deal because it's the first time that's happened. So people have definitely been paying attention. And of course, with Ryan, our lead investor, who I'm hoping he gets international signal to join us this morning, is one of the folks that's been paying attention to these updates. And if you've checked out our WeFunder page, Ryan already created his account and already logged in as or listed himself as our lead investor with the 50K investment, which is fantastic. So, at this point, we are, and stop me anytime if anyone has any questions on any of that list or ideas or thoughts, because I'd love to dive deeper into them. But at this point, we are preparing to launch on October 29th at 9 a.m. our first equity crowdfunding campaign. Obviously, we did it on Net Capital. We paused it. We didn't take any of the money, and we said we're restarting, really focused on the fandom audience. And so there's a total revamp in even how we're messaging, because the Justice for Hire audience, the people that have made all of these comments, that have joined and really care about making stuff together, those are really our first investors. So the more institutional, we can speak to the more institutional money essentially, and that's wonderful. Always happy to have those conversations, but we know that we have to just hyper focus on making the message of owning the future of filmmaking. We're making a new sector of the film industry, film and TV, and this crowd created content is going to be it's its own thing, and it'll be complementary to the rest of the industry, and that's where our service deals will come in with every studio in time, and production companies, and being able to offer these tools to others. But we have to prove it ourselves, and that's what this year has really, fortunately for us, been about. We've been proving that. So, the first 2 weeks of a crowdfunding campaign are traditionally considered very important. And these first 2 weeks, my ask for everybody on here is that on launch day, invest whatever you'd like, please. Please tell 10 people to do the same thing. and I'll send out a little list of this. And please email your network and post on social media and tell folks that you're a part of ReelwUrld, you're a part of this new segment of the film and television industry, and just let them know that this is happening. And there's a conversion rate with all this stuff. A lot of people from our experience talking to experts in crowdfunding. Obviously, we have two experts on here right now, our lawyer Mark and our advisor John. But a lot of people spend several weeks just watching an investment before actually investing. So we know that this is going to be a longer game than, hey, 2 weeks we hit our goal. Even though Legion M just raised $1 million in a week, no, 1.3. I just looked this morning, and you should check them out. And I'm really, again, John, we'll totally ask you on that. or what the intention was. I feel like I know of switching from WeFunder to Start Engine, given that Start Engine is being so aggressive. But there are other examples of that are surprising. It's really surprising examples that I personally have been watching, and that's one is which One Door Studios, and it's the number One Door Studios, and they've had a project called Calculated, the movie, and because equity crowdfunding is so new, I think a lot of people are just like, oh wow, I can do this thing. And so, projects that may not have gotten funded before are getting funded now because people are like, oh wow, this is, I just want to be a part of something. And I've watched them move very slowly. I remember when they had like $15,000 or $20,000 invested, and they just hit 1.5 million in the last few weeks, and I was shocked. I was like, this is good for them. That's amazing. And so it's been a long haul with them, and we've been watching them the majority of the year. And there are several other examples as well. Black Sands is another one that has they raised $1 million in December, and then I think they they essentially switched to a offshoot product. They said, hey, we raised a bunch of money for the company. Company's fine. Now we have, and this is an interesting model that we're likely going to emulate for the worlds. But they said, hey, we have a comic book app. So now we're going to fund the comic book app, and the company owns the app, but the app is co-owned with a crowdsourced audience. And so, that's something that we can do in the same way. If you look at the movie funding model that this Calculated app did and film did, and you look at Black Sands funding their company and then funding an app, we can do something very, very similar with every world. Justice for Hire is a world. So when we say we want to own and control intellectual property, ReelwUrld as the world's first social film studio, we can fund our worlds through the tool of equity crowdfunding. I think that's a really interesting route, even though that's not our main focus. Our main focus right now is building the tech and building out and showcasing what Justice for Hire can do with this technology, and then service deals with studios, et cetera, to expand, more known properties like Star Wars or Harry Potter, et cetera, when the time comes. So, but I do think it's a great model to reference. And it's also, again, surprising that these companies, one of which is, there's not a lot of energy behind it in terms of community, and I don't know necessarily capital-wise, the One Door Studios, but they made it happen. Black Sands had community, but didn't necessarily have as much of the, from my knowledge again, as much of the industry backing. So, but they still did it. Legion M, I think comparatively, as John, if I remember our conversations correctly, had significantly more capital than we did, we do going into their first equity crowdfunding campaign back in 2016. But I think that the unique combination of community that we have, which includes, everyone on this call, but the Justice for Hire community, our personal networks, and the cash that comes from our first drawdown of this equity crowdfunding campaign, which is going to be, upwards of 50K, all of that will go, or the majority of that will go into the marketing budget. And again, we have one of the Legion M folks on our marketing side as well, also Immortal Studios, Christian, who's got his own marketing company now, and he'll be, I have to email him, but last we spoke, we were essentially waiting for the launch of this campaign. So yeah, we're pretty stacked, and I would love to open it up to any questions that anyone might have of where we are, and of course I'd also like to pose a question to John, which is the thinking behind the switch from WeFunder to Start Engine.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple things going on there. There was a hope that the technology at Start Engine would be a little bit better than WeFunder. The timely payout and tracking of data might be a little bit better. Legion M has gone through 7 rounds, I think, with WeFunder, and sometimes getting the data we want has been a little bit slow. I mean, there's, as Jen just said, there's tens of thousands of investors there, and they're raising a lot of money. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm getting the question from the look on your eye that you can't hear me. Okay.
Oh, I was just taking my note.
Okay. So some timely payout, timely tracking, timely payouts, a little bit better, maybe a little bit better technology, and then obviously putting support behind it as well. So Legion M has gone through a lot of evolutions on the crowdfunding. Last round we implemented share bonuses and all sorts of sort of incentives that come with if you buy shares and what you can get with that. So it's not just shares, or maybe you get more shares. It's a way of getting more shares into people's hands. Sort of an idea of
John, you turned into slow motion.
Marketing dollars a little bit differently for that one. But that's sort of what's going on. I think WeFunder. What? You definitely can't hear me since since you're not responding when I say, "Can you hear me?"
No, now we can hear you. You were slow motion a second ago.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying that I think WeFunder is a great platform. I think we can be very successful on there, and I'm looking forward to their support on our raise. So I wouldn't read too much into the Legion M decision as far as where we're going with this. So I'll stop there.
Okay, no, I thought it was because of the Shark Tank guy from Start Engine and how aggressive he's been. I thought they just cut a deal and they're like, we're gonna raise you $1 million in a week. That's what.
There is something about having the support, but and this round has been initially very successful. And as Jen mentioned, you normally see a lot of activity at the beginning of your round and a lot of activity at the end of your round, and keeping things going during the round is the hard part. So that's it.
So, John, I loved your insight, if you could share, of when you say keeping it going during. In your experience, how does that feel? I've run not an equity crowdfunding campaign, but I've run a crowdfunding campaign before that was successful on Kickstarter, and of course that was very, very challenging back in 2013 when no one had heard of it, or it was just still new. But in your opinion, what is, and how can we learn from your experience of what that means to keep it going as a team?
Right. Well, I mean, it's a typical marketing campaign where you are targeting potential investors, you are retargeting potential investors, you're retargeting your actual investors. You're always reaching out and touching people that don't know, have met. And this is in the marketing digital, the virtual know and have met kind of way, but just constantly reaching out to who those people are that have shown interest and are expressing interest, and then friends of those people. So it's classic marketing that you just have to keep going after people that have been checking you out, who are following you on Instagram, who are following on TikTok, that kind of thing. So it's just getting that out there all the time. Hey, this is where we are with the raise. This is what we have raised. The raise is, our round is open this much longer. Buy the shares, et cetera, et cetera. Success breeds success in equity crowdfunding. So every time we have a good result, we should be as public as we can with that.
Hmm.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Hi. Good to see you, or to hear you again after so long.
Yeah. Sorry. I just got out of a water polo game, and I'm on the road. So that's
nice.
Neat. I'm kind of curious, and I'm not sure that Start Engine tracks any of these kind of analytics or whether Legion M does, but are you able to determine, like, to what extent the new money or the money coming in the most recent round is new money, and then of that, is that new money primarily attributable to Start Engine's audience, or do you think it's Legion M reaching out and expanding their reach?
Yeah, Mark. At this point, I don't have the answer to that. I will have the answer to that. I mean, obviously, I know the names of all the investors and new investors when they come in. We get that information. I'll know. if they are existing investors or new investors. And then and I'm sure Start Engine will have some indication of how those people have invested in their other offerings. So I don't have that information yet, but I do anticipate getting that.
Great. And Jan and Autumn, so Jan, you mentioned the focus is going to be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more focused toward I guess tell me how is it going to be different this time?
So I'd say that the previous net cap, I mean, you're already working on that. The previous net cap, we're all sitting at the second we switch over mics, it's gonna screech everyone's ears. The net capital language that we utilized was very heady, very much for a lot of investor questions that we had received through the journey of going from everywhere from UCLA Anderson to NYU Stern, NYU Steinhardt, and through Venture Out and even Y Combinator startup school. So through that journey, we accumulated a bunch of answers, and those answers, in my opinion, can't stand up to walking up to a person randomly on the street and being like, "Hey, you like Marvel? You want to be in a movie?" Like the simplicity of asking someone that, which is what I used to do in 2017 to just test the audience, especially with gamers, et cetera, and kids. That audience won't unnecessarily read all of that language. It's very dynamic. That's not to say that we won't have it available for folks, because we want people to be able to dive as deep as they can, and transparency is a massive component of what we're doing. But in terms of the difference between net capital and all of that dense language and how we're simplifying it and if you even look at the WeFunder page right now, they already took our new deck and just plastered it all over the page. And I'm just like, oh, wow, that's, well, we need to do some work here because it shouldn't be like that. But, it's way different than the messaging on net capital, way more simple. So I hope that answers your question. It's essentially going to be simplified for more of a casual fan that wants to feel like they're not just feel, but actually own a part of something larger than themselves that's going to deeply affect the industry, rather than just passively watch. Oh, are you on mute? Am I on mute? Oh yeah, Mark, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
I was just asking Autumn to share with us some thoughts about the difference in marketing, because it was very instructional to me. I'll tell you real quick before I ask Autumn. So I remember when you and I were looking at the platforms and we looked at Net Capital, and ironically, I think that was one of the things that attracted us to Net Capital, the fact that their offerings seemed a little bit more substantive, and that the investors, or at least judging from the offering materials, that the investors were a little bit more sophisticated, perhaps, angel types that were possibly going to be investing more, who would look more at the business model. And, I think you're exactly right that the successful crowdfunding campaigns is almost by definition of a crowdfunding. They're impulse decisions, and you got to catch them. And it's not the people that are investing through crowdfunding are not the ones that are looking for the business model, really, thinking through and drilling down on how's this thing going to make money. It's an impulse that there's something that I want to be a part of for whatever reason. And if they feel like it's a good idea, then it should make money. And that's kind of the criteria, I think, that a lot of investors who invest in crowdfunding use. And, I think you're exactly right. I think if because your model is so revolutionary, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for people to understand. I mean, even for people who are not even in the industry, but, let alone for the common person who doesn't know about how movies are made and created. Like for me, I mean, it was really hard to understand what the value proposition is. And so anyway, it was a real learning experience for me, because I think that the successful equity crowdfunding campaigns are those that are going to, you know, have that allure to this market of investor.
Yeah, I'll say that something that's been really, I mean, the net capital was almost a year ago now, I believe. And since then we've gotten so much more in touch with our power users and our direct community because of all the great work Andra's done with the app and the testing sessions, and the more one-on-one time we have with our community, the more we realize how much easier it's becoming for them, and it becomes so much easy for us to identify what is attracting them to our platform. And I think that's going to be a huge asset heading into this marketing campaign, because things have gotten so much more simple for us all around, because we have all these different aspects of what we're doing working together in a way that hasn't been prior.
And Mark, just to address to what you just said in terms of the, I think it's when you kind of look at what the film industry is now, and you know, if I would just imagine someone attempting to articulate that in 1919 or 1910, you know, and to really look at how the industry, how free it was in those early years, and how systematized it became. And as a matter of fact, you know, we experience the social media is pretty much the perfect example. And even when that first really started becoming, when the agencies first started dipping their fingers into the social media community, and how that became more systematized, the branding relationships, et cetera, between influencer, brand, and the agency setting up those deals. You know, so all these things, I think when you, I agree with you that it is a challenging articulation when we're talking about the thinking behind a system. But as long as we can find, and I think that's what we found with Justice for Hire, is the entry point for the value proposition between, hey, I'm a fan, I want to do this thing because I want to feel. What did Armored Knight say last night? So we had a bunch of heroes on last night, and one of them is Armored Knight, who's actually a real life superhero. Even though we're not building a vigilante app. That's not what we're doing.
That was my worry.
So you know, every time Armored Knight or any of the other real life superheroes speak on our community sessions, I always have to jump in and be like, and just to clarify, what they do is real, and what we're doing is entertainment. We're making a show about an app. And so we just so happen to have an app. But when Armored Knight was saying yesterday, when he used to walk around with his Punisher outfit on, and all the negativity he received, including being called a copycat, and recognizing that he needed to create his own character and own it. So he started pulling from different areas. Different heroes that he liked, and now he has his own persona, which is called Armored Knight. He was emphasizing the importance of creating your own persona, and even with you know, that's something that people want. You know, people are already doing that through their own social you know, accounts. That those accounts aren't really them; it's the persona that they wish people to absorb. You know, it's a story they want to tell. So we're just giving them even more permission to do so within their favorite story worlds. And I think that just kind of drilling down on that is you want? Okay, I'm muting.
No. I just wanted to say that to what Jan said, and all through the test sessions in the last months, it's amazing to hear from them that they want functionality that it's already in our product roadmap. So when they were like, oh, we want what was the latest? We want a challenge. No, we want to be able to complete a challenge like that. And we're like, we already have that. Oh, we want to chat. We have that functionality. So it's great to hear from them that they want what we already have in store, and we just need fuel and resources to speed the delivery time. And what Autumn was saying earlier, we noticed this through the test sessions and through having different touch points, which is it's a very different position than last year with net capital. And even for the sophisticated investors, the ones that don't don't act on impulse. I believe those, especially I'm talking about my network, they're keeping track. They're coming back every 2 months or so. They're like, oh, so I see you did this. Oh, you're viral on TikTok. Okay, let me know when you get to this point. And we are at that point. So I think this will be very different than the last year December net capital.
Nice, guys. And I just wanted to bring up one more point, which is just the concept of our thinking is, how do you make every function on a social network part of the story? You know, so rather than friending somebody on our platform, you can ally or rival them. And so like everything we do, you know, how do we turn a like button into more fuel for the story? And so that's the type of contemplations that we go through, and even in you know, the product roadmap right now, what exists is essentially a truncation of the studio system, the process of development, writing. So essentially development, pre-production, production, aspects of post-production, and then distribution and marketing. So, you know, that life cycle of a film is truncated in our app right now. And if you go to justifyher.app right now, you create an account, you'll experience that, but from the perspective of a creator adding to a larger narrative, which is really the shared story world model that was perfected in the comic book industry, that the film world has been introduced to, you know, starting in pretty much 2008. So through Iron Man. So, you know, what we need to build next are the automations, you know, the ability for us to keep people in the app throughout the production, because you can shoot a video in our app, but it won't auto edit yet, you know, and the auto editing, you know, Triller does auto editing, but they don't do it based on story. So what's required there is direction. And so how do you direct people remotely? And that's what we've been doing with the community for 3 years. So it's you know, we have all these processes that you know, we've been working on for even longer than that, that will take time, will take a larger team to build out, and that, you know, spans from auto editing to auto effects, sound effects, etc., tone, and just a lot of the subtleties that get missed that are really that are all math at the end of the day, but they're really about the artistic perspective of a director or an editor. So all these nuances that might be overlooked on other platforms, this is actually what the ecosystem is comprised of. And that goes down to how we feel when we watch a film. And it goes down to how we treat each other after watching a film. So it's like, if we really, you know, swim through all aspects of the ecosystem, and you know, that's why we look at ourselves as a future Adobe, because we want to make sure that we're creating these products that interconnect, like in a similar way that Adobe has done, except you know, ours are based on filmmaking and based on empathy and clarifying these subtleties. So you know, we're just super grateful to have all you guys here. And you know, if anyone has any other questions, I'd love to answer them. I was hoping that we'd have. I can't get a hold of Ryan. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. I can't get a hold of Ryan right now. So I know he's I think in the UK as of last night. So I'm you know, apologizing on his behalf, but I'm super grateful to see all you guys here, and just to prime everybody for this next chapter. So if there's any thoughts, ideas, you know, I'll send out a little few bullet points on what we'd love from each one of you guys, starting October 29th. Actually, I think starting now. I mean, like, essentially, it's until we file Form C, which we're in the process of doing with the CPA, Frucci's our CPA. But essentially, once we file that, then we're officially launched and can officially start drawing cash. But what we're doing is the Test the Waters campaign. And so that's why you see that little Test the Waters boilerplate legalese at the end of all of our communications now, because apparently we have to submit all that to the SEC. Mark would know, but Mike, you know, a thought, idea, question?
Yeah, it's just, first off, congrats with everything, Jan. And I know how hard you've been working on this, especially the last few months. To echo something that Mark raised, you know, it's one whenever I talk about your project to people, they get drawn in, Jan. But it takes a little bit of time. So, and we get it because we know it, and we're also, to a greater or smaller extent, part of this industry. So as you create the and refine the context of the campaign, how can you do it in as to simplify and to clarify the spine for those people who are not so close to the industry or to what crowdsourced creation is all about, so that they get it as quickly and as fast as possible. And I know that you've been working and thinking through this, but you know, I think that it could be, you know, it's such a wonderful, and it's the innovation of it, and how do you phrase it so that it becomes a log line. And I know that you have your versions of it, but you know, there's continuing manifestations of this. So that's all that I'm backing up as you get close to the date.
Thank you so much for saying that, you know, because we do our best to at this point allow people to ask us some questions and create the answer for themselves. That's been one of the strategies. We're like, hey, we make movies with the world, movies and shows. They're like, what do you mean? Well, you know, and then we'll say a little bit, like, for example, Justice for Hire, I'll just read it off to you now. JFH is a show we're producing with our community. Anyone can join the cast and create scenes that they star in as their own characters. By expanding your story, you help build a cinematic universe with people from around the world through our JFH app. And so that's a little response that we're giving on our social media platforms when people ask us. And oftentimes before we launched the app, that was the funnel. It was, people were like, what is this? Well, it's this. They're like, oh man, that's awesome. You know? But I do agree with you that it is a log line that we really need, because that's the movie industry. You know, we need that one liner that hits people. Right now it's make movies with the world, always open to changing that. Probably have like 40 something of those written, you know, like, you know, back in 2017, like there's a list of them, and more since. So if anyone has ideas on that, or, you know, after the call, gets struck by lightning of inspiration, please message us, and you know, always open to elevating that. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts, ideas, perspectives?
Yeah, Jan, maybe along those lines, Greg, it would be good to maybe hear sort of the 3 to 5 minute spiel on, you know, what made Ryan invest, or what's the pitch for the next investor to come along, and just hearing from you what that updated pitch is. And then something around, you know, ideally baked into that is when, you know, what's the roadmap to revenues, and what do you see as the catalyst to that in the next 6 months?
Thank you for the wonderful premium NASDAQ questions. That's fantastic. Well, sure, of course. So let's starting with Ryan. So Ryan, what made Ryan invest? I did Tai Chi with Ryan at the assemblage. We met at the assemblage, Greg. So I did Tai Chi with Ryan at the assemblage in New York at the Park Avenue location. And, you know, he came up to me afterward. We only did one class, and he was like, hey, you know, like this, a lot of the stuff you're talking about here is the same concepts that you know, I'm a former pro racer, and these are the same ideas that I used to use in racing, et cetera. And, you know, he let me know that he built and sold a production agency focused on racers, and then built another one that he's contemplating selling now, because there's some interest from CAA. That said, he's just on the email list. I didn't even realize he was on our email list. And then he reached out saying, hey, this is actually, I mean, not to give too much detail, but essentially my favorite makeup artist needed somebody in the racing world for a shoot that she was doing. And I reached out to Ryan. I was like, hey, like, you're in the racing world. Can you help out with this shoot? And it just so happened that he knew everybody she was working with. And he was also on our email list. And he was like, hey, you know, just letting you know, I've been paying attention. And what you guys are building with ReelwUrld really is the future, and I fully believe in it, and please let me know how I can be helpful. So, my response was, well, we need a lead investor for WeFunder. Would you like to be that? He's like, absolutely. And so we spent a few weeks, talking every day, just making sure that he had time to really make an informed decision. This was in July, it might have been August. I think it was in August. No, it was in July. It was actually, it was right at the end of July. So, he jumped on app tests with us. He jumped on hero meetups with us, and just really spent time getting to know the JFH community and seeing how what we've been doing is essentially creating the ecosystem where there are multiple opportunities to accumulate revenue streams. So it's not so much that ReelwUrld's going to make money this way or that way. It's like, hey, like we just launched our merch store. Look at this. So there's, let's get that T-shirt in there a little bit more. But the concept, and that's pulling from the Legion M model. So very much. So Ryan just saw what we were doing, spent time really getting to know the community, and spoke with Autumn and Andra, myself many times, and just got it. And so last week when we it's been a long time coming, but it was very rapid fire. Like, hey, I'm dealing with a bunch of stuff, across life, but let's get this done right now. Let me list myself as your lead investor. And what that essentially means is that for WeFunder, he will have the voting rights on behalf of the crowd investors. So all of them go on one line item in the cap table, and Ryan then votes on behalf of the crowd for decisions that require that. So that's his position. That's, again, he's from the I would call it world-class athletic mindset, which I'm very, very, very happy to have someone on our team, more people on our team of the world-class mindset, because I think everyone on this call is of that mindset, and it's a very particular mindset, and not to be confused with other mindsets. And so to have that, and then to have the production expertise, and if you go to Ryan's website, if you look at his reels, there's real premium stuff on there, really beautiful work that he's done, and to be able to bring those capabilities to ReelwUrld, I think is fantastic. So I'm really excited that we have him on board, and I'm sure he'll reach out to the group a little bit later. When it comes to how essentially the roadmap from here, and I think our non-provisional patent filing is a great example of the timetable. That's going to be at least an 18-month ballpark process of us getting, hopefully getting this patent approved. And in the interim, there's a ridiculous amount of work that we have to do. And that work is across the technology. It's across we've already produced the show. The show is on hard drives in the room behind us. And so I need to cut that. And the entire editing process is going to be social as well. It's going to be community based. We're going to be driving traffic to our app and saying, hey, we need this scene to fit into this. We need this footage to fit into a particular scene that we've already shot. So community, send us footage like that. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think, has done a great. If you check out hitrecord.org, as I've mentioned in the past, his platform, they've been doing similar stuff of crowdsourcing pieces of content for a while. So there's been a lot of learnings there. But the way that we're doing it is so interwoven to a cinematic universe model, which is very particular. So it's different than just asking for stuff. It's knowing that. If I asked you to shoot a video and I asked Chip to shoot a video, and you both shoot a video and I only use one of them, does that mean Chip's video or your video is just left in limbo? That's how submission works right now in entertainment across Hollywood, pretty much across everything. People create stuff, one of them gets chosen. But that's not how our model works. If you create stuff, it still is relevant to the larger storyline because of how we asked you to do it. And so how and the infrastructure to get to how is essentially what we've been what we put in for the patent. and so that means that everybody's creativity is canonical. You know, it's more than valid. It means that if you follow these rules, your creativity, it is just as valid as any other piece of content, and therefore is referenceable by the entire cinematic universe, by every creator, every user on our app, for forever. So, you know, no matter where the timeline goes. And so now we're getting into story structure models that are very non-traditional, but are very much where we actually are. You know, like the model that I'm actually talking about is pretty much just social media. You know, so like, and so it's just a reframing of social media, because social networks are already cinematic universes, and it's just the way you think about them. So if you just said, hey, this whole social network is only going to be about this one story now. Oh, okay. So everything I create now is for that story. Yes. So that's really what when we build different real world apps, what we're going to be going for. And it's that product, that social network, is the first product that we're going to be offering as a white label to different studios and networks. You know, and we even already we started talking because of John set that up. You know, we had a wonderful conversation with Legion M, and that was last year. And, you know, looking forward to deepening that conversation with them on one of their properties, because they're already thinking like this. These are complementary skill sets that we have, like what they're doing, what we're doing. And I do believe that we're all positioning ourselves to work together. And you know, like I said, you know, this is the kind of stuff I was pitching inside the studio system at Lionsgate, at Sony, at, you know, Universal Music Group, and et cetera, since 2014. So like the you know, the seeds are planted, but now it's just about us proving the model, and that's what we've been doing. The additional revenue streams that we see are outside of direct sales to studios, of this white label model, which will likely happen at the end of this 18-month process, because we need the actual time to build out the more sophisticated experience. We can, IW Group, Telly Wong over there, came to us earlier this year with a few opportunities, and other opportunities came as well for a Star Wars documentary, et cetera, for us to activate their audiences. And that's awesome, you know, but that's also a lot of work. And it's a lot of work to start doing that for somebody else when we're still in the process of figuring out how that works in a tangible way with our audience, with an audience that we own and control. And so I think the best route for us is the hyper focus on our audience and the hyper focus on a single genre. Again, right now, action, to build out tools for a single genre, and then to be able to offer a suite of tools for that genre to you know, various studio partners, while simultaneously being able to monetize those audiences in multiple ways. So whether that's merch, whether that's that we've connected with an action figure model company that wants to offer every user, anybody and all of them who join, the ability to scan themselves and have their own toy of themselves, of their hero, that anybody can buy. So not only will the person want to buy that, but as we start to create more content, they create more content around their character and story, people can purchase that action figures. That to me is super cool, because, you know, and I've seen the figures, I've held them in my hand. I'm like, this is amazing. So, you know, and so these are just other opportunities. The community is freaking out about this. We were actually supposed to have our first test of this just before New York Comic-Con last week. So hopefully we'll be able to get that test off in New York, and there's a facility in Burbank that they're just opening up now too. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. And that's just, I think you guys have seen, and I'm happy to share the, Greg, I know you've seen it, the list of all the different silos of monetization that we've thought out for ReelwUrld over time. So it's, all of those are still very, very relevant, but it's really, I think the value is in us just making noise. The more noise we make, and the more we can point people toward our monetization effort, which is really just the equity crowdfunding, being able to direct people toward that and say, hey, buy into this because this is where we're going, own a piece of it. And, I think our success there is really going to, we're the type of loyalty that I see coming from the Legion M community, for example, and the way that and I think John has articulated in the past of how and John, please don't let me put words in your mouth, because if it wasn't you, someone told me this, that essentially that Legion M can activate an audience in a day, and for, let's say, a Kickstarter campaign, etc. So there's so many different ways that they activate their audience to reinvest in them. And that's not to say that our company should be only drawing fuel from investment from the audience and selling equity. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that's a valuable. It's a valuable thing to note that these companies that by nature of getting equity crowdfunding supporters, the loyalty of your community rises up. And so I think that this community, when we start offering things like action figures or in-app purchases for different types of digital goods, that we can essentially drive the loyalty to those products and then and monetize from there.
Great, Jan, that's a good answer. It's exciting. So I have to go, so I wanted to sign off, but just say that it's been exciting to hear all the energy. The energy and passion is very clear in your voice. So it's exciting to see all this forward momentum. So congrats to all the successes to date, and I'm sure there will be more successes to come.
Well, thank you so much, Greg, and thank you everybody on here who each one of you has really added. And like I said before, you've added so much. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
Thank you, everybody, and congrats again. I look forward to more good news.
Awesome. Oh, hey, Ryan's here. Ryan just popped in. Our lead investor just popped in. Perfect timing as Greg jumps off for Ryan to jump in, which is great.
I'll say hi to Ryan. Bye.
Ryan, can you hear us?
Hey guys, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Doing good. Greg just jumped off from NASDAQ, but
I'm so sorry, guys.
It's okay.
In my head, it was 8 o'clock my time in the UK. I'm going to add it this morning. So we just had house dinner with my kids. So I got back and I looked at the calendar to log on to the Zoom. I was like, oh no, my heart sank. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Okay.
An hour late. Really, I do a terrible first impression. So sorry, guys. But it's an honor to meet you all, and catch me up, and I'm so sorry. Let's just go for it. Sorry, I don't hold you up anymore.
Ryan, I have to apologize. I do have to jump off, but I'm glad that I was able to see your face and say hello, and I look forward to other conversations. Michael Sandoval.
We can do a one-on-one. We can do a one-on-one this week. I'm around all week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Mike, love you so much, man.
Love you too, man. Bye.
Ryan, I mean, with everyone, we have
Hey, buddy.
Mark. Of course, Autumn, Andra. Mark. And so the folks you haven't met yet on here, Greg Lipper, former NASDAQ COO, just jumped off. Mike Sandoval was from the New York Film Academy. Chip Massey, wonderful guy who I also met at the assemblage, former FBI, amazing human being, full of so much love.
Really?
And we have Stephen Cohen, one of my first film mentors, a wonderful producer, taught me so much about independent producing in New York, and former hedge fund guy as well.
Yeah.
John Guenther here, also from Sony, also from Legion M, who has given us just massive insights, and my buddy, my very, very brilliant buddy from college, who's one of the top mathematicians, period. Amazing man. Thomas Redis is on here. And so that's just a quick intro of everybody who's on here. And
nice.
Tommy's one of those guys who's
wow.
He not just has the intelligence, but he's also just really cool, so super smart and super. So, and that's exactly what I think everyone's about.
So for the full package. Yeah.
I just really wanted everyone to be able to I mean, we went over everything of where ReelwUrld was, where we are now.
Oh, yeah.
And I really think the only thing that's left is being able to say hi to you and hear you say stuff about ReelwUrld.
Yeah, great. I mean, obviously, oh, can you see me? I've got my logo up all of a sudden.
Oh no, I see your logo.
Okay.
That's
I'm back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back now. No, I mean, firstly, it's an honor to be in the role, to be involved in this. I'm very grateful for meeting Jan, who, when I first met Jan, was very, it was a very powerful experience for me. It was a very random. I was at the assemblage and I just randomly did a Tai Chi class and immediately felt that connection with him. How it is. There's some people in your life, and they're very rare. You can just sense the soul of, and just straight away I knew someone that was going to be involved in somehow. I'll be involved in my future, and then Jan reached out, a few months ago. And I've been following a lot of progress on ReelwUrld and seeing all the stuff you've been doing, and I'm really impressed with that stuff. I know a lot. Obviously, my background's been in production since Merrill Lynch after finishing college, and was fortunate enough that my dad kind of supported me with that, with buying me an iMac and a camera. I hired some local students to film for me who wanted a portfolio, and I built a little small business out of that, which I then sold to university and then became part of the curriculum. I was after an economics degree, so it was very kind of a random shift there. And I spent a lot of time in my youth, obviously, racing cars, and so I was 19 and I raced professionally until I was 19, then did college, and then after college moved to the US and raced for Porsche. And same time I was racing for Porsche, started my own production company, which was then acquired by an ad agency. So I became kind of a creative director there, which was kind of really broadened my scope. And the agency was Allied Global, Global, I think, marketing or something. They were Allied Integrated Marketing.
Can we still hear? Can anyone still hear Ryan?
No, I do not hear.
It was
Hey,
it was
Ryan,
getting a little choppy.
you have completely disappeared.
As I was looking at my settings, trying to figure out what was wrong on my end.
We've been having internet issues here, and so but I'm sure it'll pop back on in a second. And thank you everybody for staying a little bit longer. And I'm so happy to see that he's a real person. Ryan is back. There we go.
I'm back.
All right.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Sorry guys. No, my kids, we have like 3 rooms. So yeah, I'm not sure where I got to in that little story, but yeah, acquired by an agency. And their predominant business was in the entertainment industry. So everything in Hollywood, every movie that came out, they were involved with doing the junket for, or doing doing publicity promotions, doing experiential. They even had a faith and family division at the time. Digital, obviously, so I came in as running the production arm. So I was vice president of production, and pretty much just had a half an hour call with the CEO once a month on my P&L sheet. That was it. He was in Boston, I was in New York, and I could do anything I wanted to do as long as my numbers added up end of the month. And having that agency behind me, I could pitch as an agency, or I could pitch kind of as a production company. And we ended up bringing in so many different verticals to the business which they hadn't had before, which was great. And it really expanded the portfolio, and we made them. I've been the year before, right? The year I left, actually, I left in January to join Ernst & Young. I moved at that year, the year before, with only a team of 5, and I made a profit of over $2 million just to 5 of us, by sticking to what we know is right. And the first 4 months of that was, I think we were probably I think we didn't quite meet our target each month, because I basically upped our price because I knew our value was high, but we were kind of playing in the weeds of volume versus value. but I knew we had the value. So it was kind of a belief, a deep belief I had to kind of push for that. And days when it was quiet, we'd go to the cinema, go to the movies downstairs. And we'd push, we'd go to the movies and we'd carry on working, and then we'd come back to work and I wouldn't have to ask one person to stay late. They'd all work late, get inspired, but we had a good team. And we got some big clients and we diversified their portfolio, their client portfolio massively. They were just on entertainment before, and they got into fashion, beauty, lifestyle, consumer goods. But I met a lot of Hollywood executives, a lot of head of studios, and they typically do 13 people around the room or 13 division heads around the room. And I was one of them, and they'd always follow up with me every time they followed up with me. So I've got a lot of contacts there, a lot of context there. And then after that, I went to Ernst & Young, which gave me a whole different context. A bit more economics came back in, and I worked there and built their advertising side up, their advisory sector, until it was really abundantly clear to me that the systems they had in place to really employ that type of power that they have as a company into that sector was extremely limited by audit independence, which they told me was they'd worked around. But I had to turn down a $4 million deal with Formula One, which is like a killer for me as a racer. We had it signed, done deal, which I started, initiated, and followed through, and had to sign with Chase Carey at the time, who's the CEO of Liberty Media. He was CEO of Liberty Media. And but yeah, I had to go back to them after that was all signed and say, sorry, we can't do it, because independence came back around again after I went to them first and said, we can't work with them because we gave them advice through 2.5 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm done. So I left that and started my own company, focusing on nurturing drivers and partnering them with new brand partners, and really just expanding my horizons, different ways to not only react to the market but shape markets. And I think that's the thing of ReelwUrld, is that they're shaping the market like Uber did years ago. ReelwUrld are creating a market, and then market shapers, and that's, I think, the big attraction for me. And Jan obviously is a great human being on multiple levels so far, and no doubt everyone else who I'm going to meet in more depth in the next week or two. I'll have the same feeling with, because Jan's around himself with these people, but it's all embodiment of that same market shaping philosophy. I think I have a lot of respect for that as an entrepreneur myself, but also digging into that with such confidence, with a team around you with such good energy and positivity and everything else. I think it's
We might have lost Ryan again, but in the midst of losing Ryan, we also gained Jeff Gomez.
I think we're good. I think I finished. I think I finished. Did I get to the end?
Close. You got close, Ryan. We lost you right close to the end.
It was the crescendo.
Oh no. Well, you guys, the embodiment of market shaping is where I got to.
Should have pressed full screen for that one so I could record that properly.
We needed to submit the video to the app saying that.
Well, I mean, I would just
what?
Please.
Yeah, that was what I meant. So just to recap that last little bit, was, started my own company again after leaving Ernst & Young and focusing just on motorsports. I focused on I read a lot of papers and a lot of different professors, different researchers and philosophers about human behavior, etc., and just sort of areas I was interested in anyway, and delved to a level I never got to before. And kind of like in 2020, I wrote up a year. I was like, okay, no revenue this year. COVID's happening. I'm just going to write the year off and dig deep into these philosophies and build this strong model. And and from that came this market shaping philosophy, which is not reactive to a market, but very, you form the market, and that's what like Uber did. And I think you guys are doing the same thing. And I think Jan's energy, the team around you, the product you have, the engagement you have from the audience you have already, and your aspirations and the way you're building it, spot on.
Well, thank you for saying that, man. And I'd say that in alignment with that, we're with someone like everyone's expertise on here, I think complements that. And one who speaks very regularly about this is Jeff Gomez, in terms of being able to bring value sets into worlds, into stories. And I had the opportunity, because I had to edit it last week for New York Comic Con. We released our full hour plus version of the New York Comic Con panel that we did with Jeff and Ahmed Best from Star Wars, and Aaron Vanek, who founded the LARP Census live action role playing, and more. Danny Fingeroth, who's the former editor of Spider-Man. And so we put that full panel out, and I hadn't seen the full version since we actually recorded it, and just hearing so much about values and the history of storytelling, as Jeff has wonderfully researched and articulated, and to recognize that crowd communication, crowd storytelling is actually the foundation of storytelling, and not the other way around, not the way that we experience it now, or have experienced it, I should say, in before this shift, because we're in the middle of the wave. The wave is here, and we are only on the wave. ReelwUrld is on a wave that is inevitable. You could take ReelwUrld out, and what we're talking about is still going to happen, because it is just, we're meant to return to this. And I think that I think when Ryan, when you say, these values, I mean, we're surrounded by experts that help bring that to us. And Jeff, I'd love to hear from you, but that's very much your wheelhouse with the storytelling world.
It's remarkable what's happening, and what forgive me for my tardiness. I'm very, very busy these days, but I'm working on a number of projects that I am working hard to make catch up with the sort of work that Mr. Lucanus has been doing for this past year. The notion of communal narrative, participative narrative, is something that was not possible, and certainly not considered by mass media until the advent of social media. Now we have a voice. We communicate. No matter what story you're telling in mass media, you can no longer ignore the participation, not the presence, the participation of your audience. That's because they have what to say. And if you don't listen to them, they're going to go away. They're going to go to someone who does listen to them. And that's just for starters. What's going to happen next, people, and I'm very fortunate to have access to the entertainment industry, to the video game business, and to some fairly exciting forms of technology. There is going to become ways for people to help tell the story, to flesh out a story world. The level of competency, the level of creativity, and the most profoundly, the level of self-expression, the desire to express in a communal fashion, is growing exponentially over the past few years. So the work that's being done with ReelwUrld is the work that is next. How do you create a narrative that is strong enough foundationally to carry people along with it and sustain contributions to it from the audience? No one is saying that everyone is extremely talented. They're not. But everyone does want to participate. And there are media forms, there are software stacks in development right now that are going to be able to self-select and integrate that creative participation, or at the very least, that heartfelt expression. What we're here to talk about today, and what you've been talking about, I hope, before I got on, is the fact that that anyone who is involved in evolving that technology and preparing to put that out. They are just a couple of steps ahead of the game, and they're going to encounter tremendous success because it's just next. It's inevitable. Have I got that right? Yeah.
That was the Thanos snap.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to mute myself, Andra. There we go.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, because what you said, Jeff and Ryan as well, and I think we discussed it, like, I think we were in Burbank. One of our main advantages is that instead of penetrating, we're receiving. And all these people that are looking for a place to express themselves, instead of trying to push and penetrate the market, we're receiving all this. And I think this is a major differentiator for us and a major advantage. Sorry to cut you off.
100%.
Guys, across the board, Jeff, I mean, I give a recap of everything. I talked about a chain of confidence, or that essentially that all of you bring to us as a team, that we're very, very grateful for, because that translates into our community. It translates into the content they create, and then it just lifts the ocean line up. And so there we go. Okay, and so, but that being said, we're launching on October 29th, and on WeFunder, we're right now have a test the waters campaign going, which requires us to have a little legalese at the bottom of every social post that essentially allows people to reserve their position in ReelwUrld. So in terms of when we launch on October 29th, we're asking all advisors, please invest in anything you'd like. Please tell 10 people. Please,
Word of mouth is king.
Word of mouth is top notch, and just being able to let your network know that you're part of this team, and that this is, as you said, inevitable. This is the future. This is where everything's going, and we are here to receive the people that want to be heard and want to create. So I'll put out a little bullet point, the three or four bullet point email just recapping all of this. But we're just super grateful to have everybody part of this. Ryan, we're super grateful to have you join us as the lead investor, to welcome you to the family, because it's very much.
Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, the timing's perfect. I mean, everybody, I don't need to tell everyone I'm obviously on this in this group, but everyone wants a voice today. The polarized world, country that we have, is everyone wants a voice, and if we can channel it into this, I think it could, it gives me some hope, really, in democracy in a way. We can have this outlet and not be an outlet that can be put elsewhere. That's kind of a bigger point, but it's, I think, again, it's giving that forum, that platform, and that voice to people that feel they're not heard, that feel they're not listened to, that feel they're not respected, or they can't affect their own destiny anyway. I think it's just giving a great, it's a fantastic platform for that, and it's entertaining, it's engaging. You've set up the right way. You've gone about things, the way that I think is correct. Way before I joined, obviously, and I congratulate you for that, and the whole team for what you've done so far. And it's really a pleasure to be in a position to be able to contribute and help.
Thank you.
Work towards the major next steps.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing to that, because this is an ask that I didn't write down. It just kind of came to mind because it's been on my heart and mind, especially since last night. Is to, and I know everyone already here is already in alignment with this, but we want to make sure that our community has access to level the playing field, has access to us at all, pretty much any time that we can offer it. So it's an ask for each advisor to please make yourself available for, and we'll do this properly, we'll structure it properly, but to the community, to the Justice for Hire community, and to the growing ReelwUrld communities, because I would really love to offer your insights to this growing community so that they can talk to you.
Absolutely.
I think it's really important for them to know that not only are you a part of this, but that you're accessible And that I mean, just being able to know that you can talk to any one of you is the type of confidence chain that I'm talking about that goes into me, goes into us, and uplifts.
No, it's big. It's big effect.
Real. And so, I mean, Ryan, even you know, the kid that wants to be your mentee, you know, like just telling him that he could talk to you, that I can make the intro in a heartbeat. He's from the Justice for Hire community. He freaked out. So like, he's 20.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
just that access.
Doesn't have to freak out at all. You just call me. It's great.
Yeah, it's
Best way for us to do that.
What is the best way?
Yeah.
Sure. So what I'd like to do in the coming weeks and months, especially during our crowdfunding campaign, is actually start to bring you guys into, maybe it's a Zoom panel, community hero meetup, something like that, where people just get to talk to you. You know, where we're talking about something that's justice for hire, real world related, and you're an expert brought in, and that you can just have a dialogue with them. I think that just knowing that they could talk to you, and that you know, as Brian Frumberg put it last year in November on our JFH Hero Meetup with the Warner Media's Urban Action Showcase, because we won best web series last year, and we brought all these folks together. And Brian said, "Hey, look, like if you're part of JFH, you're family." He's like you guys are working with ReelwUrld, you're working with Jan and the team, you're family. You can reach out to me anytime. Like that sentiment, it hit me so hard because that's cool. I mean, and when I really mean cool. Like that's, people want to feel cool. They want to feel like they're easily, they could go anywhere. They have the support. And I remember when I didn't have that feeling, and it sucks. And so to have it, you know, to have it is one of the most empowering things. Like, hey, I'm a martial artist. I consider every martial artist part of my family. That may not be their perspective, but that's how I feel, because martial arts has given me access to the entire world. I can go anywhere, you know, and not everyone feels that. And so if we can give that feeling, doesn't matter if it comes through martial arts, doesn't matter if it comes through a particular philosophy, if we could give it through ReelwUrld, through every world, not just justice for hire, and it starts with justice for hire, I think that what we're going to be distributing is going to be so much more valuable than a brand. You know, it's going to be something that changes people's lives, and that's the type of game changing that I think we need to be focused on. So
I'll be fine with a calendar thing, or something that can schedule time, you know, based on availability. You know, I'm open. Obviously, you know, everyone on the call, you know, it varies what they can do and how they can do it, or whatever. But I'm, you know, personally fine to be, you know, as a calendaring type system or something you can set up that designated times, you know, and people can just book it and just, you know, I'll chat to them and whoever it is.
Thank you. That's amazing.
From a from a filmmaking perspective, from a business perspective, from a driving perspective, any aspect for filming action scenes while driving. I've done a lot of that stuff. You know, I'd be happy to, you know, even, you know, people in New York, you know, especially I'm back home, people in New York to actually help them on their shoot, you know, happy to go and help them and direct things and help them get things right, the lighting right, you know. So you know, that as you say, it empowers people on such a level that, you know, that does transcend the whole community, because I see, you know, anyone that in LA sees that happening in New York is like, wow, there's, you know, these, even the board are like involved in like, you know, one member, you know, or take time out of, you know, half a day and spend it with them, and, you know, in Queens or Brooklyn or wherever it may be, to film them.
It could be Queens. It could be Brooklyn. It could be any of those places. And to re-amp at that point. But I'm more than happy for that. That'd be that's definitely something that we want to. I'm more than happy for that. I think it's a great idea. Thank you so much, guys. And you know, just to underline something I said before, like it's action is bigger than stunts. It's bigger than martial arts. So it's action is movement. You know, we have people that with physical challenges in our community too. They might be in a wheelchair. They might be they might have issues with speaking in general. But we want all these community members to know that action includes them, and that it's and we'll be reframing this more specifically starting on Monday, because Autumn's got a great video coming out that really encapsulates the whole community. It's like 40 seconds long too. It's amazing. So like that ties into everybody on here, because I would consider each one of you guys part of action. So as we offer to the community in the action genre, I think each and every one of you guys has something wonderful to add to that. So thank you guys so much as a whole. And I love you guys. And I think we're speaking on behalf of the whole team. We love and appreciate you. And we're honored by your time every time. So thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate you. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, ideas. Or if you need, yeah, if you guys. Oh yeah, I'll send out a bunch of stuff, the word of mouth stuff too. Like I'll send out the bullet points, but I think we're adjourned. You know, for a less Mark.
Yeah, I'll sorry, I've had bad internet as well here, which has been added to the woes. But I'll watch the replay. I'll watch the recording back, whatever, and yeah, I'll write an email with thoughts, etc. And happy to set up one-on-ones with anyone at any time. You know, as of Monday, it's a lot easier for me. I'm in my Hilton for the next 8 days or so, and I'm working most of the time. So happy to chat. Yeah. So but yeah, so I'll make up for the hour lost and ask some questions, and everything else, and help push this thing forward. It'd be, you know, it's a great community here, and yeah, it's a real pleasure to be a part of it.
Hey, real quick before I jump off, Ryan, you're in New York most of the time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
See. Yeah, it's rarely. I've come back because it's my best friend from school. He's getting married on Saturday, and so I came back. It's a week today, and so I came back to see my kids who are here, and because they're going to Disneyland during half term, which is next week, so I saw them a week early. So I see them this weekend, and then I'm in my hometown for the 5 days leading up to the wedding. Then we're flying back. So I've got a lot of time next week.
Okay, well,
yeah, most I'm in New York.
I hope to see you at some point soon. Maybe we'll grab a meeting or Zoom. So
it'd be cool to because I'm in New York too. That maybe Jen, we can connect Ryan, myself, you know, a small group of us, and compare notes and see how we can you know, contribute more dynamically here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm craving in-person meetings as many times as possible if anyone's up to that. So yeah, I'm ready for that anytime.
Right. Unofficially, one of the big hopes is to be able to start building out some of the technology on our proto roadmap that Jeff Gomez has contemplated for years as well. So yeah, there's Jeff's mind is invaluable to the entertainment world and the world of storytelling in general.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more. I really will. No, I could learn a lot there, Jeff. That sounds really fascinating. And I know a lot about technology. My dad's a CTO at Bank of America, so I know a lot about you know, a lot of other stuff that they work on there, and a lot of the new technology and stuff that's being filtered through. And it's really kind of something that interests me a lot, and how it integrates with multimedia and storytelling.
Good deal. Okay, Jen, we'll arrange it.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. That's great. Great.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
And I've even thought about coming to LA for some time, just to hang out, just to work with you guys. So you know, it's crossed my mind a bunch of times, just to fly out to LA just for a week and just hang out with you guys and get to know the team there a bit more. But you know, I'm very eager, you know, just to go and do that kind of stuff. But I know not everyone is. So it's that weird balance right now, like who's you know, who's cautious, who's not. It's like, but yeah, because of the racing stuff I do, whatever, and representing the drivers.
And just so
I've already had my third vaccine
Oh, boy.
because of that.
and Chip,
I've always been
are you in the tri-state area, Chip?
early on? Yeah, so I'm more than happy to obviously go from there for sure.
Yeah, I'm in a little bit upstate New York in Rockland County.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You got Chip too. Then you got
Yes.
Tommy, Chip, Jeff in New York, and then you got all of us, John, Mark, and the ReelwUrld team are out in North Hollywood.
I plan on trip to New York.
Well, no,
soon,
we're in
so
Los Angeles.
yeah,
Sorry.
so.
I mean, we're in California. Like,
You
yeah.
know.
It's close enough. Close enough. I'm always up for a road trip if it's not that close to.
Well, that's because you get like cars given to you wherever you go. So like,
Yeah, that's yeah. A little bit biased in that one, yeah.
Awesome, guys.
Right.
Well, enjoy the rest of the weekend. I love everybody.
Thing.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Pleasure.
Sorry again
soon.
for being late, guys,
Bye-bye.
and look forward to catching up. All right, bye.
No problem.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.